Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this inside beaded Kumihimo braid using 4 colours of beads, and this is what mine looks like. So you got this regular 8-strand Kumihimo braid with beads on, but where the beads are sitting on the inside of the braid instead of the outside like a regular beaded Kumihimo braid, and you can achieve a look something like this. So where you actually use a cord as well to help separate out the sections of the beads there. And then I've just used four different colours in my beads to achieve this pattern. So I have peach, pink and purple colours, and then each of them separated out with the white one. So these are my 4 colours, and then mine has ended up looking like this. So if you want to learn how to make this, then stay tuned. So the materials that we're going to need are these. Now we'll need a round Kumihimo disc for this because we're making a round braid. And then we'll need a cord. The cord that I'm working with in this case is a 1mm leather cord, and I just got this kind of metal finish on the silver colour. And then I'm using some beads here. Now these are all size 6OC beads or 4mm rounds, equivalent to that, and I'm just working with the 4 different colours here because that's what I want for my pattern. 4 colours that I thought go nicely together and also along with the cord. So you can see I've got the white, more of like a peach, a pink and then a purple there. And they're all going to work really nice. The only thing you got to make sure of is whatever beads that you're using, the holes are large enough to take this cord through. Because obviously we're going to be using this cord to put through the beads to be able to make our braid. So let's get it all together and let's get started. So the lengths of cord that we'll need is 4 lengths in total here of about 1 meter each. And then what I've done is put all the ends together here so they're equal, and then folded it over and then put both ends of all the cords down like this, because then what we need to do is find where the middle is and all these cords, and I've got that up here. And then in my case here I've just tied a piece of scrap wire around them, so to signify that that's the midpoint, but also to use this to attach onto the Kumihimo disc. So this is then how you want to attach all your cords onto your disc. And then what I've just done is put this midpoint of a cord where I have the piece of scrap wire down through the centre of the disc, so through that hole. And then I've just distributed the rest of the cords around all the dots here on the disc. So 1 on each side of every dot. I'm not going to worry about the numbers in this case, there's no need for that. And then all we need to do is start doing a little bit of a regular 8-strand braid before we start adding in any beads. So I'm just going to take my top left one, so that's this one, bring it down across the disc, stay on the left side of the bottom pair here, and then I'm going to take my bottom right one, bring it up and stay on the right side of the top, so that's your first pair. Move on, turn your disc to the next pair, so a quarter, then take my top left, bring that across the disc and down, stay on the left side of the bottom pair there, and take my bottom right one and then bring that up and stay on the right side, and then turn your disc again for the next pair, again a quarter. And this is basically all there is to the regular basic 8-strand braid. Just keep going to your next pair and then taking your top left one, bring that down, then the bottom right one and bring that up. And what I want to do is have about 1 centimeter or so of braid before we're then going to start with the beads as well. Now that I then have just about 1 centimeter or so of braid here at the back, then what we can do is start adding in our beads onto all our lengths of cord here. So this is then how I've added all my beads here onto all my lengths of cord. And now first off, I've got 27 beads on each of my lengths of cord here. Now that might be different from what you need. What you can do is you can easily extend the pattern on each of them, or you can obviously take beads off. All you got to do is extend the pattern that's on each of these cords until you then reach the amount of beads that you'll need. But then just to explain the basic pattern that I have on all of these lengths of cord, now they are different, so I'm just going to go through that as well, but it is the same basic pattern on all of them. What I have is I have my 4 colours there that I showed you originally. So I have my white beads, the peach ones, the pink and then the purple. And what I've done is, because of how I want the final braid to look, basically I've used the white ones to kind of space out in between the other colours. So that's kind of, you can call it the base colour. And then you'll also see that on here. So say we start, the peach one is the first one, and then I have a pink and then a purple. That's just the pattern. So imagine you got peach, pink, purple, peach, pink, purple, peach, pink, purple, and it'll repeat like that. The only thing is I have in between each of them there's a white bead. So that's white peach, white pink, white purple, white peach, white pink and white purple. So that is the basic pattern here. The difference between each length of cord is then how we start out, because we need to obviously get them sitting correctly to be able to then have each of our lines be the colour that we want. So I'm just going to start with the top two cords here. My top right one, what I have is I start out with a white bead, then I have a pink, then a white, then a peach, and then I go into the pattern. Then white, purple, white pink, white peach, white purple, and so on, all the way till I reach my 27 beads. So on this one I start out with a white and then a pink. The next one over here, what I have is I start out with a purple, then a white, and then a pink, and then a white, and then a peach, and then a white, and so on again until I reach my 27 beads on this one. So that's the top two. And then as for the bottom two cords here, my bottom right one, I start with a peach, then a white, then a purple, then a white, and then a pink, and then a white, and then continue with that same pattern. So the peach, purple and pink separated between all the white ones there all the way throughout. So that's this one, starting with a peach and then white going into the pattern. The one on the left side on the bottom here, it's a white, peach, white purple, white pink. So that's that one, continuing all the way to the 27 beads as well. And then now we have the side cords left here on each side. So on the right side, first of all, the right top one, I have a white, purple, white pink and white peach, and then continue with repeating that pattern over and over till I reach my 27 beads. On the bottom one on the right side here, I start with a pink bead and then white, purple, white, pink, white, peach, and so on again. So I'm just pointing out what beads I'm starting out with here. On the left side, so the bottom left one, it's a pink, white, peach, white, purple, white, and continue with pink, white, and so on back to the pattern. On the top left one, I start with a white, pink, white, peach, and then white, purple, and continue with the white, pink, white, peach, and white, purple. All of them again until I reach the 27 beads, or in your case, if you've added more or less beads, then just that same amount. So that's then how you want to set up all your beads here. So that's a basic pattern that I've explained, and then on which cords, which one to start with to continue into the pattern. And like I said, you can extend or shorten the pattern depending on what you want to use it for. Now this is how I work with my Kumihimo braids. So if you start from the top left or the bottom right, you want to set up beads in the same way as me. If you start from the top right or the bottom left, what you want to do is imagine you have a mirror in front of your disc, and then you want to add your beads in that mirror image. So that means this is just the adding of the beads, not the cords themselves, but the top two swap places. So the positioning of these beads will swap over. The bottom two swap places there. Again, the beads on the strands swap over. On the sides here, the top ones swap over the middle with each other, the positioning of the beads, and the bottom two, the same thing, swap over the middle there. And that's how you want to add your beads if you start with, like I said, either the top right or the bottom left, so the opposite way that I work. So now that we're adding all our beads here, we're ready to start braiding. What I just want to mention is I've also taken a picture of this setup. So if you want to look at it a little bit more up close in a picture so you can see the difference yourself, then what I'm going to do is put a link in the description box below the video to my website where they're going to post that picture, so you can have a look at that if you need to. Otherwise, we need to start incorporating the beads into the braid. So to then add in the beads here, we continue with the braid just like we were doing without the beads to begin with there. The only difference is now when I'm releasing my cord, I also want to release my very first bead and let that go all the way down to where the braid is coming here. Now if you're familiar with a regular beaded Kumihimo braid, you'll know that when we put the bead down in the middle, you need to tuck it under all the cords there and make sure that it stays under there to be able to make sure that the bead goes on the outside of the braid. For this one we don't do that, we actually want the opposite. For this one we purposely want them to lie on top of the braid there, right in the middle. Just let it stay on top, so make sure you don't tuck it in, but if it then were to fall down and tuck in by itself, make sure that you just take it up on to the top of the braid. And just continue, place your cord in your disc, and then I take my bottom right one because this is the way that I work with my braid. Again, let one bead drop down as you're releasing the cord, and then that bead you need to make sure you lie that on top of the braid in the middle. So there we go. Turn your disc a quarter to the next pair, and then we take Again, release the cord and just release the very first bead. Now this is just what you want to make sure to do, is how we're going to then make sure that the beads stay in place is when you cross this over, we have the bead on the previous cord that we crossed over before, that's in there on top of the braid. You want to make sure when you're crossing this one over, the bead that's on the previous cord is still in the middle of the braid, because what can happen sometimes is they can slide outwards here, and you don't want to then cross this one over with the bead out here, because then that won't work. It needs to be sitting inside of the braid. So this next cord, we're going to drop the bead down towards sitting on top of the braid and then placing that in. This one now traps the previous bead into place, so it stays there. The next cord, release the cord, drop a bead down to make sure it lies there in the middle of the braid on top, and then bringing this cord over, making sure that the previous bead on the cord lying underneath is staying in the middle of the braid as well, so on the inside, and doesn't come out here to the side. So this one now traps that one in place, and there we go. Move on to the next pair, and then you just keep going like this. Every time you release a cord, you then also drop down a bead. So I'm releasing my next cord here, my top left one, drop down one bead, and then as I'm crossing this over, I want to make sure that that previous bead we have sitting right on there on the cord out to the side is staying in the middle of that braid. Make sure it doesn't come out here and then you bring it over, because then you've missed out that one bead. Make sure it's in the middle, bring down this next one, place your bead into place on top of the braid, and then that traps in the previous one into place. Place that in, grab your next cord, release the bead, do the same thing, make sure the bead is pushed all the way in before you cross this new one over and trap it in place. And then this one drops down and sits on top in the middle of the braid as well. And then this is all you do. You keep going like this, and then you'll be able to see after a little while your braid is going to start coming out on the back, and then you can see that the beads are actually going to be sitting on the inside of your braid. So there you can see now, if I just brought this down, because this previous bead I just added just moved out, I wouldn't capture that bead in place. So just always make sure it's pushed in and then trap it in place with the next one here. And then just keep going like this, and it builds fairly quickly until you used up all your beads. Now that you've then used up all your beads here on your lengths of cord, we just need to continue the braid for a bit. So just continue the regular braid that you've been doing, just without adding beads in, because what we need is another length on this end, just like at the beginning here, where it's just a bit of cord, just so we have somewhere we can finish off the braid, and then it just fastens those last beads in place as well. And the cord is going to naturally singe in, so just do this for about the same length that you have at the beginning there. Once we've then done this little section, what we need to do is take this off the bar so we can then finish off the ends. So what I'm going to do is take, not the last pair that I just used, that's this, I'm going to start with the opposite pair there. Just take cords that are right opposite each other, take them across the middle and tie a regular knot, just like that, and then tighten that down on top of the braid there. Same thing with the other two from the same pair. Take the two across from each other, tie a knot across the middle, and then tighten that down on the end of the braid. And then I'm just going to do the same with the rest here. Take the cords right opposite each other, tie a knot. Now these knots are going to lie on top of the previous ones. And this is just to finish off the end nicely so we can take it off the board, but also so it doesn't get too bulky. It's going to be better to finish it off with our Kumihimo ends. So there we go. This is then how the braid looks. And then here you have your pattern within your braid there. And then you can also see the cord kind of separating out. There's different sections of the patterns of the bead, the different colours there. So there we have the finished braid itself. We need to obviously finish off the ends. What I would just recommend to do first is this kind of braid, it's really good to kind of stretch it out a bit. So just gently roll it and stretch it a bit. Don't pull too hard. Just kind of make sure the cord and the beads get settled nicely. And also makes it a little bit more flexible, because this is quite a substantial braid where the beads are inside. So this does make it a little bit more flexible as well. So just give it a little bit of stretch here so it ends up nice and settled. And then what we want to do now is finish off the ends of our braid here. Now I've already got a tutorial that shows how to do that, so I'm going to put a link to that in the description box below. All I'm going to be using are these Kumihimo ends here. So on this end, obviously you want to just remove your wire and then you just pop this straight on with some glue. On this end you just want to use some glue first and then be able to cut off the excess cord before you can then put your Kumihimo end onto that. These Kumihimo ends specifically are 8mm in the size, and these fit perfectly with the materials that I'm using here. But if you're using some different materials, you might need to use some different end caps there, some Kumihimo ends. So these are just the ones that I'm using. So go have a look on that tutorial if you want to see how to finish off the ends. So I've now attached my Kumihimo ends here on both ends, and also my lobster claw clasp and extended chain. And this is the finished piece. So it looks like that. So you just use your clasp obviously to then close up your bracelet, and then you're able to wear it. And then the braid is going to look like that. So you have all this effect of the different colours of your beads, but within the braid instead of on the outside, and in this colour pattern separated by the white ones. So these are just obviously the materials that I've chosen to work with. You can use different materials for this, play around with the colour scheme and the different beads and cord as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this inside beaded Kumihimo braid, but using two colours. And this is what it looks like. So this is the effect that you get. And I'm just using a light blue and a dark blue in beads, and then I'm using a black leather cord, and just to provide that contrast in between the beads. So you achieve this nice pattern, and it gives a really nice effect, I think. So if you want to learn how to make